guys, welcome back to my channel. So in this video I'm going to be showing you guys how to make this two-piece. I'm making it for a client. So what I did here is to fold my fabric into two. So this fabric is folded into two. I'm going to start with the shorts. So the next thing is to measure what I have here on this fabric, which is her hip divided by 4 plus extra 4 inches or so. The next thing you're going to do is to mark from her waist to her hip. So guys, now that I've marked this here, so first thing I did is to put my tape away about 1.5, and then I marked her waist to her because my band will still come in, right? And I'm still going to take away half an inch from this to join the band to it. So let's say my band is 2 inches, I still take away half an inch here. So I put my tape at 1.5, and then I put her waist to her hip, which is at 10.5, and then her waist to her crotch, which is at 12.5. So now the next thing I'm going to do is on this line here. So you can start from the beginning here. So on this top line, you can do her hip measurement divided by 4 plus maybe 1 inch, right? So that will give me about 12.5, and I'll mark that here. I'll bring down that same 12.5 down here. What you're doing is the hip divided by 4 plus 1. So I'm also bringing that down here too. So now I'm going to use a straight ruler to connect all these 3 dots together. And then after that, what I'm going to do is my crotch measurement. So basically this measurement here is going to be whatever you have from this distance to this point divided by 4. So I have 12 here, divided by 4 is going to be 3. And if you measure it, you'll see that it's 3 inches that I have here. 3 inches, you see. So I'm just going to connect it this way. This is going to be my crotch measurement here. And then after that, the next thing I'm going to do is to go up to the waist. And so guys, her waist is 38.5 divided by 4 is going to give me 9.6. Mark that. And then I'm going to add 2 inches to it, 1 inch of darting and 1 inch of side seam allowance. So I'm going to also connect it here. Now from this point, now you're going to blend it into the side here. So that's basically it. All I have to do now is to go ahead and cut. But it depends on you what you want the lower part of this your pants to look like, guys. One thing you can do is you're going to check. So for me, the measurement I have here is 15, right? Almost 15.5. Find halfway through that. So I'm going to fold this tape to find halfway through that, which is here. I'm also going to bring it down to this point here. And then I'm going to take her thigh measurement divided by 2. So her thigh is 28, divided by 2 is 14. You're going to take that 14 and place 7. Half of 14 is 7, right? I'm going to place it in between here. 7 on this side and then 7 on this side. You understand? And then I'm going to use half an inch on this side to connect it, and then half an inch on this side to connect it. So if you see, the bottom part of my is almost, the person has a big thigh, so it's almost the same thing. So there's nothing to cut here, because normally I would have needed half an inch on this side now to blend in, which is exactly what the fabric has. Half an inch on this side after marking that extra, after splitting the measurement into 2, and then I'm going to connect it here. So it's basically the same thing. There's nothing to cut out. So the only thing I have to cut now is just to go from this crotch part here, and then I'm going to cut this out. Now that is done, I'm going to take this again and place it on my fabric. So guys, now that I've cut out my front panel to the back, all I did is just to get another fabric that is folded into 2, that would have almost the extension of 4 inches to the back here, and then extra 2 inches to this side here. And then at least whatever your crotch measurement for the front is, make sure you have it at the top here. So the next thing I did is to rule a line continuing this my crotch line all the way, and then from the waist in front, from this my front panel that I placed here, I'm going to come in 2 inches there and rule a line of that 2 inches here. So I came in 2 inches here, and then I'm going to bring back that 2 inches and add it at the end of my pants, which is exactly what I have here. And in a straight line, I have an extension of 2 inches from the point where my front panel stops to the end of the fabric is 2 inches. So what I'm going to do now is just to connect from this part of the waist to this point. And if you measure it, you'll find out that is exactly what you have as your front waist pan, the front of your pant. This angle that I just made now, if I measure the front of my front panel, the waist, which is 12 inches, you see that is exactly that 12 inches that I have on this angle here. You see? So now after that, the next thing you have to do is just to go ahead and add 1 inch to the hip line, 1 inch to the crotch line. That's distance of 1 inch from where this front panel stops. Add it, and then 1 inch to the end here. Connect all of them together this way. Connect all of them together, and then also connect it to the waist part here. You see? So now that that is done, the next thing so what I have here is about 2.5, or you can almost 3 inches, right, for the back crotch. So now what I'm going to do is just to go ahead, and if you're more on a smaller size, you can do 2.5 or so. You understand? This person is quite big, so I'm just going to connect from this point now all the way to this, blend it into this line, because this is going to now be my new back panel. You understand? So blend it into this line that we made above here. But after that, you also have to, because the zip of this pant is going to be at the back. So I'm going to go back in now and add about 1.5, depending on you, for my zipper allowance, right? Or 1 inch, depending on how much you use. But this line you're making is not going to get to the crotch. You're going to stop it at least few inches before then, depending on the length of the zip you're working with. So I stopped somewhere here, because my zip is about 10 inches, right? So this is what I need for my zipper allowance. And then down here also depends on the thigh of the person, right? If their thigh is quite big, you can just leave this the way it is, or if you want, you can do just 2 inches from this point and then cut off the excess. So now all I have to do is just to go ahead and cut. You see, I already have everything figured out here. So basically all I have to do is to cut. So guys, now you see we have our front panel, we have the back panel. So one thing I'm going to do now is to insert my dart. Remember, you're going to use 1/2 inch at the center here to close up this crotch part. So what you're going to do is I'm going to skip that 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to insert my nipple to nipple divided by 2, which for her nipple to nipple is 9 divided by 2 is 4.5. So I'm going to skip 1/2 inch that I'm going to use to sew this crotch, and then mark the 4.5 here. So once I mark that 4.5, which is on this point, so this is it here, mark the 4.5, and then I'm going to rule my dart that is going to stop 2 inches before this hip line. So my dart is going to go all the way from here, and then I'm going to connect it 1/2 inch on this side and 1/2 inch on this other side. So this is basically what my dart is going to look like, and I'm going to notch it because I'll be transferring it on the 2 sides of the front. So the 2 sides of the front panel, I'll have this dart here, you see. So now I'm going to set this aside. The same goes for the back. So I'm going to mark about 1/2 inch that I'm going to use to sew it, and then I'm going to just keep 4.5. That's the nipple to nipple divided by 2. Mark that here. But the back dart is going to be at least like 5 or 5.5 inches long this way. And then I'm going to mark 1/2 inch on this side and 1/2 inch on this side, and then I'm going to notch it. So this is going to be the back panel. So I'm going to go ahead now and sew this all the way to the crotch, and then sew this one also. And so guys, this is it here. As you can see, I've joined the center part. You see how my front panel was before. I joined it together, picked my dart, added the band. The same for the back. I joined it together here. But I closed this up because I don't have my zip at the moment. But once I get my zip, I'll open it up to somewhere here and insert my zip in between this space. You understand? But this is actually my back panel. This is what it looks like. You see? So guys, for the band, all I did was just to get my fabric that looks something like this, 5 inches of width. Because like I said, my band is going to be 2 inches. And then all I did is just to fold 1/2 inch on this side, and then also I folded 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch here, and then folded it into 2. And then I took the waist of the pants, put it inside of it, and sewed it together. You understand? So I did this side, one side of the back separately, one side of the back separately, before I now closed it up. As you can see, the 2 of them are still open here. And then for the front, I also did it this way too. I just joined the band. You see the band, I just did it one piece. But guys, I know you might be wondering, why did I do it one piece all the way around? But guys, this person is quite big, almost waist of 39 inches. So I like to have some fabric by the side, so in case when they come, I can always let it out by the side. You understand? But if it's one continuous band, like if I join the whole pants together now and then use one continuous band all the way around, and they come and they want me to release it a little bit, I'll have to remove the whole band and cut a different fabric and then put the whole band again. You understand? Because the band you use, if you use that method, is one size, you understand. It's just like the waist measurement is what you're going to use, and then plus your zipper allowance. So there's no way you can let it out. But with this method now, the band goes into the side zip, the side seam. So when I take away this 1 inch down to close up the side all the way to the end and close up the crotch, if she comes and is a little bit too tight for her or she adds weight, I can always go back in and take it out from the band, you understand. So now let me go ahead and join this to the side, and then close up this side and then the crotch. Guys, if you want to add a pocket, all you have to do is just to cut something that looks rectangular like this, and then come down at least maybe 1 inch after your band. This is where my band stops. I'm going to just add this here, sew it this way, and then also go to the back panel, and then I'm also going to sew it this way. So once you sew it, you're going to have something that looks exactly like this. You close up the upper part, close up the lower part, and then maybe close up at least 4 inches up here, and then you have your pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up this pan, fold the end of the pan, and then we'll move over to the top. So guys, you see I've finished the shorts, right? So this is what it looks like here. So all I have to do is just to get my zip and put it at the back, and that's basically it. So now let's move over to the top. So basically what I did here is just to measure from her shoulder to her waist. Like I said, this person is quite big, so her shoulder to waist is about 20 inches, which I marked already. And then I have her shoulder to her nipple line. So let me place my tape so you guys can see. So first I marked half an inch at the top part here, and then I marked her shoulder to her nipple, which is at 13, her shoulder to her under bust at 17, and her shoulder to her waist at 20. So this is her waist, this is her under bust, this is her nipple line, right? And then this is her chest line. This chest line, how you're going to get it is, so basically the first thing I did is to divide my shoulder, her shoulder by 2, which gave me 8, because her shoulder is 16. I came down 1 inch of shoulder slope, and then I did her bust measurement, which is almost 46, divided by 4. It gave me divided by 6 plus 1.5. So approximately what I'm working with is 9 inches. So how you're going to calculate this length is just your bust divided by 6 plus 1.5. That's how you're going to get your armhole length, which is going to be your chest line. So once you do that, the next thing I'm going to do is to insert her bust measurement divided by 4. Like I said, is about 11.6 is what I'm going to mark here. 11.5 somewhere here. And then the next thing I'm going to do is to mark from this point to this point, find halfway through. So that's 9 inches. Halfway through that is going to be 4.5. Come in here by half an inch, mark that, and then I'm going to connect from this point to this point to this point. This shoulder slope here, I'm going to find halfway through this, which is about what I have here is almost 5.25. So halfway through that will be that here, or you can just fold your tape into 2 and figure out where the half of it is going to be. So I mark that, and then once you mark that, you're going to connect from this point to this point. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come here, and then I'm going to mark, instead of half an inch, because this person is quite big, so I'm going to use 0.75 here, and then I'm also going to use 0.75 here also. And then on the outer side, I'm going to do 1.5 here, and then I'm also going to do 1.5 here, right? Once you mark that, the next thing you're going to do is I'm going to come down on this line by 1 inch, because you don't want to connect it directly to the nipple. I'm going to come here 1 inch, and then the next thing I'm going to do is, first I'm going to connect these 2 lines together in a straight line from here to this point, and then from here to this point. And then once I connect these 2, I'm now going to connect from this point now to this 1 inch I came down by under her bust, and then connect this one also to this point. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here 1 inch above her this chest line. So I'm going to come up above this line, and then I'm going to rule a line here. And then once I rule this line, I'm going to go ahead and mark on the side that is facing me, which is the neckline side. I'm going to do 1 inch, and then on the outer line, I'm going to do 0.75, which is here. And then once I do that, I'm going to now connect it directly to this point. I'm going to connect it from here to this nipple line, and then from here to this nipple line. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do is to come down here and mark the neckline I want to work with. So for this here, I want to do about 3.5 or almost even 4 inches, but I'm just going to leave it at 3.5 for now because I know that I'll still use half an inch of it to turn on the neck, to turn the neckline. So I'm going to mark my basic neckline here, because remember I'm making a crop top, right? So I've marked this neckline now. So the next thing I have to do is just to go ahead and start to insert my measurements first. So let's say, so I've already marked her shoulder, her bust divided by 4, which I marked here. And then what I'm going to do is to take the measurements I have between this point, which is almost 1 inch or 1.25, mark it here. And then I'm going to add 2 inches of sewing allowance here, or 1.5 depending on you. And then I'm going to come down to her waist and do the same thing. Her waist measurement divided by 4, which is about 9.6, mark that. Take the measurements I have in between here, which is 2.25, put it back in, and then add 1.5 of sewing allowance. Once that is done, I'm going to go ahead and connect from here to here. And then I'm also going to connect this here. And then now, all I have to do is just to finish up my neckline and then the yoke part. So the next thing you're going to do, it depends on you. So I'm going to connect from here and blend it into my armhole, right? So I'm going to take from this part here now and blend it into this armhole part. But then this neckline here, it depends on you how you want to put it. You can bring it down also to the chest line, or you can do maybe half an inch below the chest line. So I'm just going to connect from this point now all the way to this point. And then once this is done, I'm now going to mark from here. I'm going to determine the space I want to have between this part here for my yoke. So it depends on you what you want to have. So let's say I want to go from this upper part here, which is the 1 inch I came up by, because remember all these things now are counting as the space you're going to have in between here. So I can go from this line now. I can say, let me do 2 inches or so. So let's say I decide to do 2 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to blend it into this line also. So from here, I'm going to connect it all the way, sorry. So guys, that's basically it. All I did was just to place my ruler and then I connected from here. So I placed my ruler just like this and then I blended it in from this armhole part here all the way to the top here. So guys, like I said, the neckline, I'm still going to change it a little bit. So what I have to do now is I want to draft my back bodice. My back bodice, I'm just using a plain basic back bodice here, just your normal back bodice. So I'm going to be tracing it on my fabric. So guys, this is just a basic bodice pattern for the back. You see I have half an inch at the bottom here for seam allowance, and then I also have half an inch here also at the top here, because this front one also has half an inch at the top and half an inch at the shoulder. Because of the bustier, you don't want to not add this half an inch, and then when you go to join it, then if you take away half an inch from the body, let's say I don't add this half an inch now for the shoulder and then I take it away from here, it's going to pull this under bust up and it will not give you the perfect fitting. So that's why when you're making this bustier especially, you have to make sure you add your seam allowance at the shoulder, so you don't disrupt all the shoulder to nipple, shoulder to under bust and shoulder to waist. So now what I'm going to do is to just go ahead and start to cut it out. So guys, you see what I took away is what was in here and what was at the top here and in between here. That's exactly what I removed. So this one here, I removed it, and then the one behind here, I also took that out. So now for the neckline, the reason why I left this here is because for the neckline I want to bring it down a little. So for the neckline, like I said, I did 3.25 here. Guys, remember this is a crop top. If I was making a dress where the zip would go up, it would have been perfect, but this is a fitted crop top. So basically, whenever you're making a fitted crop top, the zip always faces down. So if my zip is going to face down, that means I'm most definitely going to have to make the neckline in such a way that my head can fit in, except I want to make it in form of a jacket zip. But most people don't always like the jacket zip because it will be hard for you to wear it if you're alone, except it's someone that will come and help you and pull it together to use the jacket, you know, the type of zip that separates into two. You understand? So for me to get away with that, what I'm going to do, instead of the 1 inch I did for the neckline at the back, I can extend it and do extra 1 more inch to it. So in total I'm going to have maybe 2 inches of back neckline. This is me trying to widen the head, right? So just to make sure her head fits in. And then instead of the shoulder slope of 3 inches that I use for the width here, instead of 3 inches, I can also extend it and go in and do 4 inches neckline. You understand? So now I have 4 inches here, 4 inches of shoulder width by 3.5. So what I'm going to do is also try to go ahead and blend that in. So guys, you see what I did here? So I've extended this neck to open it up wider. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this off now. So you see my neckline is more open, right? So now the next thing I'm going to do is just to take this here, put it at the shoulder, because the two shoulders are the same. Put it just at the shoulder this way. So that way I will be able to tell the difference also here. So now I know that my shoulder to shoulder, like, because the two shoulder for the front and the back will meet each other. So you want them to be exactly the same length. So now I'm going to cut off this excess here. Like I said, I came down extra 1 inch more here. So I'm going to bring it out here and then blend it into this line. So guys, if you want, you can still bring down the back neckline some more. But I'm going to stick with this. When I'm done, I measure it around. If it's still not okay, I can always bring it down from the back. Or if you want, stick to your normal smaller neckline. And all you have to do is just to use this type of zip that separates one on both sides and wear it like a jacket. But just make sure it's facing downwards. So let me cut it off now, and then I'm going to go ahead and trace this out on a pattern paper. Trace this on a pattern paper and trace this on a pattern paper. Note that the center one, this is going to be on a fold. This is going to be on a fold, and this is the part that will be on the fold. This part here on a fold, this part here on a fold, right? These two center parts here, this straight line part is going to be on a fold. By on a fold, I mean the part of the fabric that you're going to be tracing it on will be folded this way. And then you're going to place this here, but the center part here is going to be folded, so that when you open it up, you have both sides of the front panel, because this is the center piece. But this one here, you can trace it just as how this one is, not folded, just fabric that is on top of each other, and you just trace it because one of it is going to go on both sides of this center piece. So let me go ahead now and cut off this and trace out my pattern. So guys, this is it here. So the first thing I did is to trace it even on lining too and everything. So if I remove this pattern now, so the first thing I'm going to join is the body of the cloth. So I'll just take this here, the center piece. Like I said, I have 2 pieces of this, so each of them will be on both sides. Like as you can see, it also has the lining too, which one on both sides, right? But then this center one here is going to be in between it. So this one here is going to be by the center like this. So I'm going to join this to the, I'm going to join the fabric to itself, and then I'm also going to join the lining to itself. You understand? So the lining itself, the 3 pieces of lining will be joined together with a seam here. The 3 pieces of the body of the cloth will be joined together, and then this is the top part here. This one here, I'll also join it together, but I will start with joining the neckline to the neckline of the lining. So guys, I'm going to join the neckline here, and then I'm going to join some parts of the bottom part, not the whole thing, because remember, some part of this is going to be fitting in between this lining and the fabric. You understand? So this, some part of this here is not the whole part that I will close up. So I'm going to close up mostly the center part and stop wherever this part is, because some of it is going to be fitting into this fabric. But it's after I join it, then I'll show you guys how that will be. So now the next thing is also my sleeve, because as you can see, it has a sleeve. So for the sleeve, all I did is just to fold my fabric into 2. You see, I have 2 of them here folded into 2. And then the next thing I did is just to come down 4 inches. She wants her sleeve to be 7 inches of length, but what I have here is 9 inches, because I need 1 inch to fold the edge and half an inch for the top part here, right? So now I'm going to just, I ruled a straight line across here, which is her armhole plus extra 1.5, and then I connected from here to the point at the top. Find halfway through, that's going to be 6 for me. Connect it from a curve above here and then a curve below there, and then you're going to insert her arm width. So her sleeve width for this one is 14, divided by 2 is 7. Add 1 inch of seam allowance, connect it this way, and then all I have to do is just to cut this out. So guys, now that I've cut my sleeve, you see, it's done. The next thing I also like to do is, since this is going to be, you know, sometimes, most times your back is shorter and the front is longer, so I like to reduce the length of my back, especially by the center, because you don't want the pants and the top at the back to meet each other. Meanwhile, the front is cropped, but the back and the back of the pant and the back of the crop top are almost like overlapping each other. So I like to reduce the back by 1 inch. So as you can see, I came up here by 1 inch, but I leave the side here to be the same as the front panel. But you see, I blended it into the end before I even get to the side seam. Most of the 1 inch I'm taking away is at the center part here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. So that's basically it. I'll go ahead now and start joining everything together, and then I'll bring it and show you guys what it looks like. So guys, as you can see, I've joined this. So guys, basically how I did this is just to place this, once you sew this part to that end, right, the corner of this point here, you're going to insert it in between the lining of this and the top, like I said before, and you're going to measure for some people it might be 1 inch after this, after the point where this line is, like where you join this side part is, it might be 1 inch, it might be 1.5, it might be 2 inches, depending on how wide you move this away. But it's always after this line, it's always after this line most times. So it's always after this seam from the first one, you know, this seam here is almost after that. So guys, this is it here. Once I joined it inside of it, I used lining as the facing, and then I turned it over, and then I also sewed the bottom part of this place, and then from the side seam of this, between the lining and the top, I put my hand and flipped it to the right side, you understand? So once I finished sewing the upper part, I also closed up the bottom part with 1/2 inch with the lining, and then from the side I flipped it over, you understand? From the side I flipped it over, joined it to the back panel before I now closed up the whole side seam. So for the back also, what I used is bias, is what I used to finish up the back. I didn't fold it on itself because I didn't give it 1 inch of seam allowance. I only gave it 1/2 inch, right? So I just use bias to turn it over, also iron it out, or you can also use your lining if you want to, because basically the 1/2 inch I left is just so that I can use lining the same way I use lining in front. Use lining to join it with 1/2 inch and then turn it over before you close up the side seam. So as you can see, I've put in my sleeve, and that's it. So what I want to do now is just to go over to the back. As you can see, I now have my zipper. So all I have to do is, you see, I made sure that her head could fit inside this opening here. So now what I have to do is take the zip and insert it here. So I'm going to just put her zip facing down. Like I said, this zip has to face down. The reason being, if I make this zip face up, most times your waist is very small, and once the zip is going to start from this end here, once the zip is starting from this end here, that means this part is closed up. So no matter how, even if I open this zip to the end, it will be hard to pass through my bust to get to my waist, because your bust is bigger. So you understand? So that's why. So I'm going to take this now and place it this way, and insert the zip. Also go ahead and insert my zip for my pants facing up this way, you understand? So now let me go ahead and finish up everything. So guys, you see, this is done. So guys, basically all you have to do is just to place this. Once you place it, you will see it once you place this on top to insert it here, it will fall in place, and then you use the lining to turn it over. So that's basically what this top looks like. This is the back panel here. You see, like I said, the zip opens up this way and then it closes this way, just so that you can get that fitted waist, and then also your head can also fit here. You see, the neckline is not that wide, but it's just wide enough to fit the head. And then this is the pants. Like I said, it has a zip at the back, you see, and then it also has 2 side zips, 2 side pockets. So that's basically it for this tutorial. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I'll see you in my next video. Guys, please like, share and subscribe. Bye.